Howdy neighbors, thanks for joining me today here at the Homestead, and appreciate you tuning in and watching us today. And today's subject is going to be about shortages, and each week we have a porch talk. I try to have it aired around 7 o'clock on Tuesday nights. If everything works out, that's the plan. And so if you want to tune in on Tuesday nights, well, we'd love to have you. I talk about serious subjects. Everything we do really is kind of serious, but we do other things here on the homestead besides just these talks about what's going on. But I try to get the facts as best I can and just report to you what I'm seeing and going on. Some people maybe consider some of this negative. I'm not meaning to be a negative Nancy. I'm just trying to tell you the seriousness of what's going on in our land today and what concerns me. And I appreciate you watching. Today's subject's about shortages. And before we get started into that, I want to say, if you're not a subscriber, if you'd hit that subscribe button, after you do, a little bell pops up. That's called a notification bell. If you click on it, you can set to be notified when we upload videos. So if you did that, you'd be reminded every week. And if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to comment, I love reading your comments. I read every comment that comes through. Now, as the videos get older and they're out there for a while, if you're a new subscriber and you've been going through the old videos and comments, sometimes it takes a while. I don't comment to everybody, but I usually always at least put a thumbs up, sometimes put a heart out there. If I really like your comment, I put a little heart out there if it's something that touches me. And if it's something that I feel I can comment to, it's just that we're getting to the point we can't comment to everybody. We've had a bunch of new subscribers, and I want to say howdy and welcome to all of you, and I hope you enjoy the channel here and certainly appreciate your subscribe. It doesn't cost you a dime to subscribe, but it really helps us out here on the channel and on the growth of our channel. And all of our loyal subscribers that's been with us, some of you have been with me since the very beginning, a year or so ago, I want to thank you very much for being a part of this. And anyway, as we get into the subject today, shortages, and I want to talk first about food shortages, because to me that's the most important thing. And as far as I know, there's not a lot of people around here going hungry. Anywhere in the country, as far as I know, people aren't yet going hungry, but there is a lot of pressure on our food system. A lot of the store shelves, our local stores, I've heard people from other areas, you have sent me feedback that your store's shelves are getting bare. Some of the stores are moving things and spreading them out and less in one area, so it makes it look full. But our stores here, our grocery store is very low on things still. It's just unbelievable. We're in a small community. We have a food chain here that of stores, and this particular one of their branch stores is here, and it depends. Some things are short, some areas, some aren't in other places, but they've actually had people coming here and getting food from other towns that couldn't get enough of what they wanted, or they'd come here and sell items and things like that. And it has really put pressure on our store to keep things going, and during this virus thing and all that stuff. So anyway, there's across over here in another town, they have a food pantry. There's food pantries set up all over. But I was over there the other day, and I was amazed at the number of people. And there was gobs of people. This little town probably has 400 people population. And I would say there was at least that many lined up to get food. There's enough people there that the police come, 2 or 3 police cars, and they were directing the traffic in this small town to get people through. And I asked if that was normal, and they said, well, here lately that's been normal. They've been having big turnouts. And the one thing I noticed, and not trying to be judgmental, but there was a lot of the people that come through that was in big fancy cars. And it could be that they were picking up groceries for other people, perhaps, whatever their reasoning was. But I had thought, ain't that sad if you were coming there to get food, but yet you own a big old fancy vehicle of some sorts. I would think if I couldn't afford food, I would be selling my fancy vehicle and downsizing and using that money to better use, would just be my thought on the situation. But anyway, the food shortages is concerning. We're fixing to come into winter. There looks like another round of this virus. I've heard reports that they think there's another round that now is going to be stronger and super. Some think the Chinese have released another round towards us. Some believe that this bug is mutating and coming into a more stronger virus, and that perhaps even though you've already had it, you may not be immune to the other. Now, I think they don't know, just to be honest with you, but we should be getting prepared. And what if? I feel the whole thing's been overblown, just to tell you the truth. Now, some say they don't think this virus is real. That is your opinion, and that's fine, and maybe it ain't real. The thing is, for something that's not real, there's sure been a lot of shutdowns. And I trust my personal physician. I do work for him, know him and his wife very well, and I trust him. And he says that back last November, this virus, they believe, was already going. They just didn't know about it. And he said they would test people for the flu and they would come back negative. But they had the vomiting that comes along with this virus a lot. People getting very, very sick. They sent them home, told them to stay home, that they thought they had the flu, even treated them just like they had the flu, even though their tests come back negative. And at some they tested 2 or 3 times. I also know the nurses that work in there, and I do repair work for them. I have a business and do work for individuals, as you well know, and I know these people. They would have no reason to lie to me, and I trust what they're saying. So there is something that was going around. Now, in our actual area here, we've not had a whole lot of deaths or even hospitalizations for the virus. We just haven't, and we've been blessed that way. But we had some people really getting sick. Now, here lately, there's a lot of people testing positive, so they say they're positive, but they have no signs of the virus. It's people that's going in wanting to be checked, or people that's going in for a surgical procedure, and they want them to be checked before they have the procedure, and they're coming back, some of them, positive. I know of a person that went and got tested that owns a restaurant. And so when they got tested, they come back as positive. That concerned them very much. They went to the health department. So they went somewhere else and got tested again. A few days later, they come back negative. They scheduled another one. They paid for these or whatever they need to do their own self, made their own way instead of going through the health department. But they went to another one, and they also come back negative. Because they owned a restaurant, they still quarantined themselves for at least 15 days. They never had any symptoms, never had any sickness. What happened was it was recommended that they go get tested because they owned a restaurant. And also, one of their employees had been tested positive. So this particular employee had never actually gotten sick either. So they thought everybody needed to go get tested, so they did. Well, they had to shut their restaurant down for a while also because she had a positive. Even though she had 2 negatives, she still shut down. And they take precautions in their restaurants. Now they're open back up, and it's back, not business as normal, because they have a lot of safety things in place that they're doing that they weren't doing. And I won't go into a lot of detail on that because it's not that important in this episode today. But nonetheless, this video is concerning, and it's like, could it be that they'll end up shutting down a whole bunch more places because things spread more? Around here, the flu virus seems to be getting earlier and earlier every year. And used to, you wouldn't see it till December, January, when people were really closed in. Now, it seems like it's starting in October, they'll start giving out the flu epidemic and the number of cases. And I don't know why that is, unless people's just getting where they stay indoors more or whatever. But my concern is not about catching the virus. If I catch it and I die tomorrow, I know where I'm headed. I'm not worried about that. What I am concerned about is people that aren't prepared and have nothing to eat on should things get worse. And what they're doing right now is going into plants and testing the employees. or if one employee comes down positive with the virus, they want all the employees to be tested, and they'll even shut the complete factory down because one employee tested positive. Whether they were sick, whether they had to be hospitalized or anything, they make that person be tested. Then they test everybody else, and for the most part, they want everybody to quarantine for 15 days. What's happening is these plants are having to shut down, and what if it gets worse? Some say it's a conspiracy thing to shut our food plants down. One thing that we went into a total shutdown back earlier in the late winter there, and what got me late winter, early spring, along through there, what really concerned me and I thought was goofy, nobody thinks about the consequences of our actions. You know, the amount of people that have actually died, that have versus what have been tested positive, and the ones that have actually died is minuscule. We've had more people around here die in automobile accidents than what have died of the virus, but what you hear about is the virus every day. We hear about wearing masks. I'm not opposed to wearing masks. If you're going somewhere where there's a lot of people, wear a mask. You're protecting yourself if you wear a mask. If someone comes up that don't have a mask and speaks to you, they say it's through the droplets, at least they can't get to you. If you're concerned about that, wear a mask. I've ordered masks so that if we happen to go somewhere where we think we need them, we can wear them. I also wear a mask when I ride my lawnmower, not because I'm going to get the COVID, but my allergies get to really bother me after I mow the yard. So I've been wearing a mask, and I get tickled thinking people's going to come by and see me out mowing my yard with a mask on and think I'm wearing a mask because of this COVID. And I am not against wearing masks. If that's what it took to keep our country going, that would be fine. I know a lot of people are wearing them in rebellion because the president won't wear them. And I got tickled the other day. I was thinking about the president. He come out and said he was not going to say a national mandate on wearing masks, and that he wasn't going to wear a mask and blah, blah, blah. I did see that he had one on the other day. I think he was visiting a hospital and he had on a mask. And I think you should. If you get to go visit a hospital or a nursing home, you should have a mask on. But nonetheless, he wasn't wearing one and stuff. And I got tickled because he said he wasn't. And they was like, oh, how awful. The president says he's not going to wear a mask and that they don't need to wear the mask. And he ain't putting out a mandate. Oh, this is just horrible, horrible, horrible. And this is the thing I got thinking about, just got me tickled. And it wouldn't matter who the president was. But then if he would have turned around and said, okay, I'm mandating a federal mandate that you have to wear a mask when you're out in public. The news media would have came out and said, oh, who does he think he is? He don't have constitutional authority. He can't tell us what to do. And old Cuomo, that's the governor of New York, can you imagine him? I could hear him coming out saying, he's not a king. Who is he to tell us what to do? He's not like a dictator that can tell us we have to wear a mask. That's my job. And so it's just crazy the lunacy that is going on in our land today concerning this virus. But folks, that same lunacy is in control right now. And when it comes wintertime, when things shut down, that is the hardest time of the year on folks. So let me explain something about food, then I'm going to talk about some more shortages they have going on. If you're not prepared, you didn't grow a garden this year, you're not canning, you're not preserving, it's too late now to grow a garden. But you could start getting prepared for next spring. If you find some seeds, our seed stores are pretty much empty. We went to an Amish place this weekend, and they usually have seeds, and they had very little of any kind of seeds left. Our feed store usually has an abundance of seeds, and they just very little seeds. So what I'm trying to say to you, go ahead when you can find them, or if you can order them, get prepared. If you're wanting to plant a garden next year, and let's say you want to do raised beds, go ahead and be getting things prepared. I know it's hot weather now here. It's really hot. It's hard to do work, but you can get out early in the morning, get started, start preparing, and get things ready for next year. And anyway, if you can't do that, go buy food that you can buy right now and store you up some. Don't go out and just panic and spend everything you got. I'm not recommending that, but put a little bit of wheat back. Start storing. These places that sell food, freeze-dried foods and stuff, are sold out and way in advance. People are trying to get beefs butchered around here. They can't get a freezer, and they can't get a beef in because the beef processing centers, at least the good one, the one I use, is booked up now until next May or June, and it's probably changed now even further since it's been a few weeks since I talked to the guy. But I need to call in and get one scheduled for next year, and go ahead and get it scheduled. Get ready to bring another beef in. But listen, even getting a freezer, our store down here has been out of freezers for quite a while, and they finally got some in. Well, if you get a chance to get a freezer and you want to get a beef butcher next year, but don't wait and get your beef in the center and then say, oh, I'll go out and buy a freezer, because it may not be available. Do what you can to take care of yourself now. If you have to get freeze-dried foods, maybe you can get canned meats. If you're vegetarian, you shouldn't have much problem. You can get beans. My mom said that beans have really jumped up, the price of beans. She bought a bag of beans the other day, and she was shocked at what she had to pay to get a regular size bag of beans. And a lot of times the stores are sold out of beans and rice around here. Even flour and things that you would think would be commonplace, they're sold out of. We have bought wheat berries, we call them, and we've got buckets of them. They're sealed buckets and should last for a long, long time. We even bought us a grinder that will grind it up and make wheat and Josie, or flour. And Josie's, as long as you leave them in the berries, they last much longer. But you can process that wheat and make you some flour. So she's experimenting with that and going to try to make some breads and do some things and working on getting those things. But it's something that you got to come into that takes a while. I couldn't just say this year I'm going to grow a garden and just everything turn out. If you've watched my videos on gardening, I think we got a pretty nice garden. I see some of your gardens, and I think you got very nice gardens. Stivers, Homestead, y'all have a very nice garden there. And VW family has a very nice garden, and others that I've watched. And my mind, I can't think of all your different names, but VW Homestead over in Arkansas, and there's another one over there in Missouri we like to watch. But anyway, there's several, and you got nice gardens, but you've been gardening for a long time, okay? So if you've gardened for a while and you know what you're doing, it's a lot better. You already got the stuff in motion going. So right now, even getting a garden tiller, if you wanted to grow a traditional garden in the ground, maybe you live somewhere that has a good soil, you can't get a garden tiller around here. A lot of people's wanting to do raised beds with their treated lumber. They've ran out of treated lumber, so a lot of people were going to use treated lumber. Some people don't want to use treated lumbers. Down here, you could get cross ties. They're sold out of cross ties. Some don't want to use cross ties. So whatever it is you want to use, maybe you want to buy you a sawmill and find some cedar trees and cut your own cedars to make your own. Maybe you're going to have to use untreated lumber and maybe do something to it. Use some oil-based something to treat your lumber so it wouldn't rot. Or maybe you're just going to have to put plain old lumber in, and it'll last you a few years, and just do what you have to do. But start preparing now. But since you can't get nothing much done now between now and fall, depending on your growing season, right now we could replant and will replant beans and some things like that and have a fall crop. You could plant corn right now. They're planting corn now, and to have a fall crop. You know, as long as the frost holds off, we'd probably get a crop, say sometime in October. We'd still have time because things grow. We'd have to water and really take care of it, but we could grow corn. But we'd probably grow beans and stuff like that, and peas and things. My peas now, I've got black-eyed peas that are ready to be picked, and I've actually left some of my beans this year, my green beans, to let them get big, and I'm going to have Josie shell them out for me for seed for next year, so I'll have green bean seeds. But do things that will help you to get prepared for next year, because boy, this winter looks scary, especially just this virus, not to mention all the other stuff. It's concerning that food prices are going to skyrocket, and if you are instead of putting money in the bank, if you put money in the bank with the interest rate that is being paid right now, you're losing money. You're losing it. You're not making enough interest to offset the cost of inflation and what's going on. So if you put your money back in food, and food goes up, and let's say your store has something on sale and you buy an on sale item and you put it back, and say you saved 10 cents a can, that's 10%. You can't make that in a year on money in the bank. So put you some money back. Buy a freeze dryer. They're selling freeze dryers down here in our neighboring town, and people are really enjoying those freeze dryers and really benefiting from them. And they're expensive. So it's an investment, but learn how to do freeze drying. Start doing some things that are going to benefit you for the long haul. Start putting back some food now. Some of you that live in the big cities, you have asked me what to do if you live in an area that you can't grow things and where you can't store much stuff back. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I would leave the big cities. I would flee the big city. I would get out somewhere and try to find me something in the rural communities. If you could commute back and forth to work. A lot of people here now are working from home that have jobs that allow them to do that. I would work out something like that if I could get away. If I can't, I understand some are in situations you just cannot. You don't have the financial means. You don't have the wherewithal. There are people on YouTube that have channels that are preppers that are prepping in the big cities. Find one of those. I meant to find one. I seen one the other day that had commented on one of our videos and said that that's what they did, and I checked out their channel. Very interesting, and I was going to recommend them, and I'm sorry that I don't have that. If I come up with it before this video airs, I'll try to put it down in the description. But if I don't, just check out prepping channels. Maybe check out City Preppers, something like that. Find out. Do something to help yourself. There's ways, even if you live in town. It's just because I live in the country, I see it from a tunnel vision type thing, and I believe that being in a rural area, you have more opportunities to do things than you would in town. But start getting prepared. If I can't preach that, can't say that enough, to get prepared, because it's very concerning of what's coming on this year. But I had some list here of things that were shortages of. Now, there's a coin shortage. If you've heard about this, they're not wanting to give out change at places. Some stores will put your coins that's owed on a little card. It's not a debit card, but it's on like every store has a little membership cards they give you, and you get points for what you buy, and you can cash them in. Well, they're adding that to your purchase on your card, and then you take that and you can use it to buy stuff the next time you're in the store. Suppose there's a coin shortage. I use my debit card mostly now and credit cards, so I don't use much change. I hate to carry change around, and it seems like it's just something, they're getting suggested to a paperless society, a cashless society, where we'll eventually use everything as cards. I think it's a bad move, but people are going that way. It's more convenient, and they're going to make it look more convenient, and it's going to make it harder to use cash, I believe, but that's where we're headed. Meat processing, to get beef or hogs butchered right now is a major thing. If you want to raise your own meat, there are people out that are ripping off people with beefs. They have them advertised butcher beefs that all they are is weaning animals that are around 400 pounds. Well, you need a beef to be, I know ours this year was like 1,030 pounds, but I prefer one 1,200 to 1,500 pounds and about 18 to 24 months of age. So if you buy, and these people, some of them's asking like 1,500 for a 400-pound animal. They're ripping you off if you're what you fall for. But there's a lot of people that don't know any better, so they'll go get an animal like that. Then they find out they can't even get it in to process it. Now, if you want to get a 400-pound animal and bring it to your property and raise it out, and some will try to trick you and say, well, it's Angus beef, registered Angus, the best there is. That might be. But if you're in a pinch, any beef's going to taste good if you'll raise one. You can take an old cow and grind her up in hamburger meat, and you will not be able to tell the difference. If you take a cow and feed her out a little bit, you sure enough won't be able to tell the difference. And I've got a video about raising your own beef. You can check that out if you want to. Treated lumber. They're out of treated lumber, so building projects and things that you might been going to do, they're out. I have a friend who owns a lumber yard, and he said that they've been hard to get treated lumber. He's got some on order. They're slowly running out. They have some really long boards still yet in stock, because a lot of people can't haul those. So you could bring a saw and cut them in half, or he would probably cut them in half for you. But a lot of the lumber yards are sold out of treated lumber, and I have some friends that have a project going, and they drove way down in Arkansas to a Home Depot store that still had some treated lumber when they left here. Supposed to have like 60 boards that they wanted, but when they called, they said, we may be sold out of them before you get here. So they were headed out to go get that. Canned food, such as canned vegetables and things like that, there is a shortage. There's even a shortage of getting them from farmers. Farmers have had trouble getting them shipped in trucks to the stores. There's stores are having trouble getting them processed to these factories, canning factories, because of the COVID. Some employees aren't working. Some are taking advantage of getting extra 600 a week. Some plants have had to shut down because people get the virus and they end up shutting the whole plant down. There's a whole myriad of things that's going on in the food industry. There's also a shortage of truck drivers. I know some of you get offended when I say this. There's nothing bad about there being a shortage. I'm not saying nothing bad about truck drivers. There's just a fact. I have two friends, one lives right here by me, that have bought their own tractor equipment, 18-wheeler tractors, whatever you call them. They are going at the bunkers trying to keep up with the demand, and they're making really good money right now. I have a brother-in-law that's a truck driver, and if you're watching right now, any of you, I want to say howdy to you. If you're listening going down the road, I wish you safe travel there in what you're doing, but they're doing a very valuable service for our country, the truck drivers. If we didn't have them, we'd be in bad shape. And I want to say something about the truck drivers too. That is a good business to get into, a good industry. There's companies here. I've seen there's one up here in a neighboring town that had a whole bunch of their 18-wheeler tractors lined up out there waiting to go, but they don't have people to drive them. There's a shortage of people to drive those trucks. And there's a big demand. And one thing, people aren't getting their children to going into trades. I consider truck driving a trade. I consider plumbing a trade, electrical a trade, heating and air conditioning a trade, auto mechanics a trade. People are discouraging their children to go from doing something useful. And those are very needful skills. And it's coming a time, I'm going to tell you, in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see it even worse. It's hard right now to get a good plumber around here or a good electrician. Some people may have licenses, but they don't know what they're doing. And a lot of the ones that are doing trade work right now, like truck drivers and auto mechanics, heating and air, plumbing, electrical, all those trades, they're retiring. And a lot of them have made really good money, and they've decided that during all this trouble, they're going to retire. And that's good that they can do it if they can financially do it. Another thing that's a shortage, and this is something that I'm sure is going to shock a lot of people, is soda pop. And they're having trouble getting aluminum to make the cans with, is one of the shortages. Also other ingredients like sugar and syrups and things that they use. They're having trouble getting to make soda pop. We don't drink soda pop anymore, so very rarely, it's been a long time since I've had a soda pop, but very rarely do I ever drink a pop. But this would not break my heart if they didn't have soda pop, but I know some people are hooked on it, and you're going to miss out on. Flour is another thing that there is a shortage on. Many other things that are shortages of. Also, the prices are going up. Prices are skyrocketing on items. Because there's a shortage, it's supply and demand. In our society we live in, we're in a capitalist society. A lot of businesses are having to pay their employees more to get them to work. Kind of a hazardous duty pay, you might say. So stuff's getting higher. our store shelves, besides the grocery stores being bare, the stores such as Tractor Supply, such as we have Atwood's. It's a chain here of farm and ranch stores. If you're familiar with Tractor Supply, the same thing. Other stores that the shelves are very low on things. A lot of things like water hoses and things to water your garden, things like that are low. When you go on to, if you ever buy stuff through Amazon, a lot of their stuff is out. You can't get it. Some stuff they'll say is available, but it may take you a month to get it. The supply companies that I buy my products from for my business, I do heating and air conditioning and appliance repair. A lot of the stuff you can't get right now. When you call, now I can sometimes find alternatives or stuff that's pretty close to it, but it'll be out of stock and they just won't even let you order. A lot of appliance parts now they're putting no longer available. They're going to quit stocking a lot of your appliance parts, and so people have appliances that might be 4 or 5 year old and they no longer make the parts for it. Electronic controls is the main thing. We mostly do heating and air, but we also do appliance repair. I've always done appliance repair now for 35 years and heating and air conditioning for 35 years. So we have over the years, I've seen a lot of changes. Used to, they would make parts for stuff for at least 30 years. Some of the old stuff you can still go get parts for, but for this new stuff they're making, you're not. Well, that is also now causing a shortage of appliances. The virus has caused a shortage because plants are shutting down. A lot of people are afraid to go to work, so they're not going where they make the appliances. They are also having trouble because there's a shortage of truck drivers. There again, a very much needed thing is truck drivers, and I know several truck drivers around here that's retired. I have an uncle lives just right here. If you can't see his house unless I turn the camera, but he lives right here, and he had to retire. One of the reasons he retired, he had a severe wreck in his truck, and it really hurt him very bad. So, but he had to go ahead. He was getting older anyway, and to get on disability, and had to take an early retirement from the trucking company. But he, stuff like that happens, and we have people retiring from the trucking industry as well. So they have some of the warehouses have stuff that needs to be shipped out, but it's just a matter of getting it there. I met a man this weekend who is, I won't mention the name of his business, won't even mention his name, but if he happens to watch one of our videos, I want to say howdy to him also. But he owns a big chain of feed stores, and he owns a big feed mill, and very nice business. And I got to tour his one of his stores, and I want to say I was very impressed, and I was impressed. He's a very nice Christian man and stuff, but we were talking about this COVID. Had it affected him any? And it has, and he said they've had some trouble. One of the things, getting supplies, certain things that they need to make their feed, getting it shipped, because there's been a shortage of drivers and available people to even work to get the product done. But he said they have managed through all this. One thing, we got a new washer recently, and talking about appliances, we've got one locally here. I didn't want to go to one of the big towns, and I prefer to support my local businesses first before I go to the big box stores or anything like that. I prefer to shop local, and I went down here local, and they happened to have one just what we were wanting, and I bought it. But they're having trouble restocking their supplies, and they just have a few appliances. So they had the washer we wanted, and they're out of refrigerators, freezers, all of that kind of stuff, and can't get them. They're just they said they're looking for maybe November. They may be able, they're telling them, to get some of their appliances restocked. I've seen some of our other smaller stores in the area that have just a few things, but they're all sold out of refrigerators and freezers. I want to say something about refrigerators and freezers without making this video super duper long. The new stuff that's coming out has a refrigerant in it called R600. It's not 134A. For a long time we've had 134A that goes in your refrigerators and also goes in your cars and stuff. So Just be careful about that. If you happen to get one that says R600 and you think you can just put 134A in it, it probably is not going to cool and work properly. People are throwing them away because they buy some cheap brands, and within a year the Freon's leaked out, the warranty's no good, and that is happening. Buy you one from a reputable company, the reputable brand. And I'll give you an example. Whirlpool owns several brands now. They own Maytag, they own Roper, they own Estate. Now the Estate, some of them are made also by Frigidaire, but they own different brands. And Amana is another one that Whirlpool owns. So when you go buy one, people will go pay. I have friends that own a store up in Missouri, and they told me that they get $50 more for a Maytag washer, but they actually they buy it less cost than what the Whirlpool brand cost them, but they're the same thing. And when we were visiting there once, it's been some time ago, I told them, I said, do you realize that's the same thing, the Maytag and the Whirlpool, the same workings? It's just the console looks fancier on the Maytag. And they said, oh, we know it, so we actually buy them cheaper, but we sell them $50 higher. And so we have people that'll drive 100 miles to come here and buy the Maytag brand. So, you know, it's just crazy. But to me, the domestic brands, the ones that we build right here in America, Whirlpool brand, the Frigidaire brand, are your better brands. The foreign brands such as Samsung's, LG's, they're okay, but they're having trouble with their parts and stuff. And because of all of this virus and the problem of shipping and stuff that's going on, just beware is all I'm going to say to you. Just be concerned about what's going on. I believe you should buy America first, so that makes me kind of a unweighted opinion here, because I'm weighted to buy American anyway. But anyway, the appliances there's shortages of. So I've had people that needed stuff done to their appliances that the parts weren't available, and they didn't have no choice but to go buy a new one. And some that the parts were available, but they were very expensive, and maybe we were going to have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to get, according to the factory. So people have said, well, I'll just go buy a new one. But now they're calling back and saying, I've been waiting 6 weeks. One lady was waiting 6 weeks for a new range. I've got another one just called. She's been waiting 6 weeks for her washer. And she said, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get it, so maybe you ought to come out and go ahead and repair this washer and to get it going, and then I'll turn around and sell it. So we're seeing people wanting to hang on to things now because they're finding that they're harder to get replacements. I also believe the price of replacement appliances are going to skyrocket, and they do not build anything, refrigerators, freezers, washers and dryers, they build nothing as strong and long lasting as they did 20 years ago. The stuff you're getting now is not going to last for the long-term use, so just get prepared for that. That's the wave of the future. They'll eventually go to where all your appliances are going to go by the way of disposable. They'll pretty much be disposable. Unless you buy a refrigerator like a Sub-Zero that are super high dollar, you know, you're going to pay $6,000 for a refrigerator, and even those aren't built like they used to be. So just beware that, you know, I have people I go work on Sub-Zero refrigerators for that spent $3,000 or $4,000 30 years ago on a refrigerator, and that refrigerator is still working and still looks stylish in their home today, but they do break down eventually and wear out. And some of the ones I'm working on, I'm going to go today to one that's over 30 years old, and this is the first time they've had trouble. So anyway, the old ones lasted, but this new stuff is not lasting, and for what you have to pay for it, it's a shame, but that's the way our society's going. But just be prepared. If you do need new appliances, there is a shortage. I have a lot more I could go on and on, but I've rambled on and on with this video today, and I've gone long enough. I do appreciate you watching today. Once again, if you're not a subscriber, if you'll subscribe, hit that thumbs up button if you like the video, and we'll see you next week, 7 o'clock on Tuesdays, for more Porch Talk. May God bless you. We're gone.